Joining us today is Radhika Ghai, a friend, a mentor, and someone who I've known for a long time. Radhika is the CEO and founder of kindlife, a wellness and beauty e-commerce platform that brings together a whole host of brands catering to consumers across the country. She was also the founder, back in 2011, of ShopClues, an e-commerce marketplace bringing together bazaars of India, catering to 400 million consumers across Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. She actually scaled that company to unicorn status in 2016 and received the First Lady Award from the President of India for being the first woman founder of a unicorn in the country. Radhika, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Such a pleasure to be here, Aabha. Thank you so much for having me.
You know, when you took ShopClues to those heights, it was still early days. ShopClues was, I think, only the fourth unicorn in India back in 2016. And I also remember that you were very focused on building it profitably. You did not prioritize growth over profits. You wanted to be sustainable. And this is at a time when that market was incredibly busy with other players with big bucks. So how did you stick to your guns, and what were some of the key highs and milestones at the time? What was the experience of building one of India's first unicorns?
You know, I have to say, when I look back, I feel a lot of the bravery also came from just having blinders on and a certain ignorance and the courage to be able to believe that you'll be able to do it. Now, when we started ShopClues 2011, we moved back from the US, and we thought that it was going to be bringing supply and demand together on the same platform. India at that time, if you remember, Aabha, was shopping from the bazaars and the small strip malls. For people not familiar with our sector markets and our bazaars, organized retail was less than 3%. And whatever existed in e-commerce looked more like the mythical malls of smaller towns and cities which didn't exist. We wanted to bring together these smaller bazaars, the smaller traders, which were the backbone of Indian retail, and bring the consumers who were shopping with them offline onto the same platform and expect magic to happen. Right. And it did.
It did.
It just took 3 years for it to happen.
3 years is actually a pretty decent amount of time.
You're right. You're absolutely right. In fact, we thought that, you know, when we start, it will be like a hockey stick, you know, it just a small curve, learning, and then it takes off. It landed up being more like a Canadian hockey stick, flat, 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 figure out what's happening, and then it took off. Of course, data becoming cheaper, Geo coming in, Jan Dhan, all of that made a lot of impact because the country was dragged into the digital era, kicking and screaming. But it's probably one of the best things that happened.
True. And we're seeing the impact of that continuing. I'm going to actually come back to you on that. But you said we came back from the US.
So we were actually a team of 4 that moved back. I always think of it as the most perfect team that was possible.
Okay. And I didn't know all of you had moved back.
We all moved back.
That's
there were
interesting.
3 families that moved back. So, right. And all of us, we were in our early 30s, mid 30s, and we had young children who were at school. It was fascinating because to take that decision when all your careers are going great, to drop it and say that we are going to move back to a country which we left in our early 20s to go study abroad. And that was the dream, right? Build a career for yourself in the Silicon Valley. And all of us were doing amazingly well. And we thought, oh, this is it. If we don't take this risk now, I think we'll all regret it for the rest of our lives.
The ultimate entrepreneurial dream.
Ultimate entrepreneurial dream. Yet, again, I feel that that was the right time to do it. We had come to India in 2000. Sandeep and I had come to India in 2000.
And you were working as well in the US.
I was working as well.
What were you doing over there?
So I was at Nordstrom.
Okay.
And then I was actually, and that's an interesting story as well. So I used to work at Nordstrom, which is a high-end department store, running strategy for them for about 6, 7 odd years. And then I got pregnant with my second one, which was a tough pregnancy. So I started writing a blog. which was called ShopClues.
Okay.
So it was a
interesting. All right,
precursor
yeah.
to ShopClues, and it was super interesting because I would write about Bollywood fashion, catering to South Asian women, what are the new brands that are coming up, a lot of my learnings from Nordstrom. And then my content started getting syndicated. So MSN reached out, AOL reached out, Malayalam Manorama reached out. So all of the content started getting syndicated, and we were not putting in any money, and we started getting about 50,000 visits on a monthly basis. All of this completely organic. And I remember a top VC reached out to ask what I wanted to do with ShopClues. I call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was writing and I thought this was great. I was suddenly making more money than I was making in my full-time career. And I think that is also a time which forced me to think that maybe there's something bigger that's possible. You know, I have a vision that is not available everywhere. And Sandeep wanted to be an entrepreneur. He was an equity research analyst. There was Sanjay, who used to head global product for eBay. So he had a very good vision of product and technology. And then we had Minal, who was our CTO, who was the CTO of a Richemont Group company. So we discussed what do we do. And the first thing we decided that we would do something in fashion because that's where my expertise was, and we'd call it Deal Clues. So that would be a little bit like the Outlook and the Guild Group, very good connects within the industry, be able to get it. So came to India 2010 to check out what it looked like. And the beauty of that trip was that we realized that the opportunity was far larger and we were thinking small.
And that's something you always believe in.
Yes.
You always say you have to think big.
Yes.
So you probably didn't even estimate what was happening in India at the time.
Absolutely. We thought fashion, we're going to build it out big. But everything gets built out on layers. The horizontal commerce layer, which is typically the first layer in retail, had not been built out as yet. We had legacy players like Rediff, India Times, that were more an outcome of a content site starting to sell products. Flipkart at that time looked more like a mall than anybody else. And I remember coming to India and looking at it and thinking, there's so much possible. So bag and baggage, dropped everything, pulled the kids out, pushed ShopClues to the side, spoke to the VC who'd reached out, this was a large name, that we are doing something bigger, and moved to India. 2011 it was.
Exciting.
Very
Super
exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. But I do want to talk about the team. Yeah, I do want to talk about the team a little bit as well. It was a perfect storm because all of us completely owned our pieces of the business. For me, it was consumer category and the business aspect. Sandeep was the storyteller, you know, the finance person. He understood the numbers. He was able to communicate the numbers beautifully. Between Sanjay and Minal, they completely understood product technology. Sanjay was an expert at product. He built it out beautifully. He'd done that at a very large scale. I think what that enabled us to do is to visualize scale in a way it had not been done before. So
the forces coming together, the right ingredients.
Forces coming together, the right timing, and
the right experience.
The vision of building a unicorn right from day one.
Really? So you knew from day one this was going to be...
We were going to build a large company.
That's amazing. Yeah.
We were going to build a large company.
So I want to segue from that actually when you're talking about the team because, and I remember coming to the office during my news career to interview you, and I think Sanjay was there at the time as well, and I remember chatting to you and you were on that cusp of hitting the $1 billion valuation.
I can tell you that for, I want to say a minute, but it was probably 6 months to a year that felt like a minute. It felt like the world had come to an end. I had a 2-year-old, I had an 8-year-old. I had a husband who was really struggling with all his, everything in the US, could not come back to India. Very young company. with investors. I remember getting on a call with investors, and you know, the whole conversation was about what do we do, how do we handle this, how do we take this forward.
Were they supportive, or were they very intrusive or supportive? Or?
I think a bit of both.
Okay.
They were extremely supportive the first few months. And then the conversation started about that, should you really be in the company? And this was for me. And this is really early on, right? I'm talking about 2013.
Okay.
And we'd started in 2011. I do like to put this in perspective all the time. The 2013 is when he moved out. And a conversation with some of our investors as well on the phone call, where we are talking about, you know, this is what the business, and the business continued to grow, continued to do well. And they said, yeah, and you know, we are defending you against most people because they don't know, they don't think that you should be in the business, you're the wife of the CEO. And I listened to them, and we kept the phone down. And it took me a minute to kind of sink in that I've been giving this company everything I have. I'm a young mom, struggling with a family situation, everything. And this is what
and this is thrown back at you.
Picked up the phone, called them back. I said, okay, it's time for you to look at me as beyond the wife. Let's talk about the business schools we went to. Sandeep and I went to the same business school. Let's talk about the experience I have, what I have done in the past.
I can't believe you had to explain all this.
All of this had to be
explained. These are intelligent investors who backed a company.
You and I have chatted about this. I think as women, we just have to work doubly as hard.
Doubly hard, and maybe we have to speak up.
We just have to speak up. I remember the whole conversation, and I realized at the end of it, they were the ones who were telling me, nahi, aisa nahi hai. I'm just telling you that we're supporting you. Don't have to rub it in, dude. Like, it's a different story.
Right. Yes.
But overall, I do feel the investors were very supportive. They knew that they wanted to get the company on the right track. But it was a lot of hard work from the team's side as well. There was, I think the first conversation we had was with Flipkart in 2013 in, I want to say November, December, where our investors, the team felt this company should be sold.
Okay. This is in, 2013 you said.
So 2 years old,
2 years
very
old.
young.
People
still
are so quick to...
People were very, very quick to judge.
Yes.
And luckily we got Ronnie, who came in at that time and put capital in. And within the same year, Tiger came in. And things just turned around completely. All the questions that were being asked were completely shut down. Sandeep was still in the US. He moved back in 2014 and started working on Droom already.
Okay.
Because he knew he was done. You know, I would say at that time, it was me, Sanjay. Devesh was still with the company.
Okay.
He moved out in 2016. Okay. And we were just working on getting the company together.
Okay.
I'm a much more practical person. I feel let's get done. This is done well, it's done, packed up, wrapped up, let's move on to the next big thing that we can do. My thought was that with him starting Droom, that is what it would be.
Okay.
And that is really what it was as well. That was the thought process. But I think over time, our relationship starting falling apart. We are two different individuals. We are two individuals.
Right.
Let's just start with that, right? We will have different point of views. We will have different point of views on the logo. We'll have different point of views on the marketing. We will have different point of views. When you are at work and you bring the conversation back home, that's really where it started falling apart. It just started falling apart in a very, very massive way.
But it's important to address this because I don't think it's so easy always to work with your spouse. And we did see an investor backlash.
Yes.
I think there were two companies at the time. There was, of course, ShopClues, and the other one was, remind me.
Mu Sigma.
Exactly, Mu Sigma. And then more recently, we're of course seeing it with Byju's, I can say it quite openly. So, it was something that worried investors, and I think will continue to worry investors if we see more examples of such. But, okay, coming back to the exit, that came much later. You did take the company to unicorn status.
We did. I think it was a lot of pushback against where some investors thought we should land up, versus us continuing to believe that we can build the company. It is not just about a single person being being in the company or being being outside the company.
Sure.
And Sanjay, me, the team, we believed that we'll be able to do this.
Got it.
And we did it. You know, it was, but I will also say, I don't think we fully grasped the essence of becoming a unicorn. You know, those were really early days.
So what it would mean, the kind of wave it would be.
How do we, it just, the whole essence of being a unicorn was not fully grasped. It was an amazing moment, but that's what it was. It was a moment in time where we were set on building out further.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think there were a lot of, I can't think of the right word for it, but a lot of things that kind of splintered out after that.
Okay.
You know, there was some dissonance amongst the investors. There was, of course, a public dissonance that was happening in my private life.
Yeah.
That was reflecting on the company.
Okay.
I got an offer from another company to join them.
Why did you say that you'd take a step back?
You know, I wanted my life to
back.
be sorted.
And this is now 2016.
2016,
so that you've been doing this for 3-4 years.
I've been doing this for a bit, 5-6 years.
6 years, yeah.
And I remember having this long conversation with a friend / investor. Unfortunately, we don't talk anymore, but either way, about this great opportunity that came in. And I told him that if I leave, you know, this is, maybe it'll calm things down at home.
Okay.
And I remember him telling me that, you know, the investors are not going to take kindly to having another founder get out and leave the company. You're needed for what you're building, and there is no guarantee that you move out and things will get sorted.
Right. So this is when things would get sorted, I mean the running of the company.
Private life.
Private life.
Personal
Got
life.
it. So the divorce wasn't through at that time?
The divorce was we were in the midst of divorce. We were in the midst of divorce for a while.
So, okay. So, it's all right. It happens. You know, it happens world over.
What do you do?
And this leads me to my next question. In your case, and you're on to something very exciting now, she'll talk about, which I'm sure will also be a unicorn. But you were okay to step back for a while. Now, should I link this to gender in any way? Do you feel it's harder for the woman in the equation because of biases that exist, or lack of support, or extreme judgment, or was that a personal choice?
I would say a bit of both.
Okay.
A bit of both, for sure. Because every conversation that I would have with friends, well-wishers, family would be, let's make it work. And maybe you can, if this is the main point of contention, maybe you can take a step back. And I was very tempted. I came so close to it. And it just felt like this is, till I realized that this is not going to change things. The fracture had happened.
And that's a very brave point to come to.
Putting the cast on was not going to get them together. The crack would always remain.
Yeah.
And do I want to remain in a cracked relationship for the rest of my life?
I think that's a very brave decision to make. Not everyone's able to make that decision.
And I also think it was the right thing for me to do by my children as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to call that out. I have 2 boys.
Sure.
My older one is 20, my younger one is 14 now, and I'm very, very proud of the amazingly empathetic children they've turned out to be, adults they've turned out to be. At least one, the other one is on his way. I think they've seen both aspects of it. They're empathetic towards both sides. They understand the ambition that came from their father.
Okay.
They understand the compassion that came from their mother. And from my perspective, I go into this with a complete clean heart, where I believe that my children, I did the right thing by my children, I did the right thing by my company, and most importantly, I did the right thing by me.
And that should be priority number one.
That is.
Because only then can you actually make the right decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the right thing for me to do.
So how did it dissolve? And then we'll move on to
I'm
Kind
getting
Life.
like shivers when I'm
But
talking
you're
about this.
thinking about this, right?
It's,
There's
you know,
so much.
I've never really chatted about it. And it really was, it takes a toll on you, you know, more than a toll on you. Because deciding, putting yourself first is not easy for us. That's also where the gender bias comes in. You're expected to look after everyone and then look after yourself.
Absolutely. It is the expectation.
It truly is.
So when it dissolved, I'm assuming the four of you had certain equity when you built it. Did that remain and then you sold and exited peacefully, or was there a lot of churn even in that, in the entire process?
So after we became a unicorn, there were a couple of years of a lot of uthal-puthal. Let me use the most appropriate word that I can think of. I think that's also when there was dissonance in the investors. Sandeep and I were in court. We settled around 2017, 18, and there was some equity transfer, some of that happened. But when the company got sold, everybody came together to get the company into a safe home.
Okay.
I think that worked out well.
Okay.
All the employees got their ESOPs bought out.
Sure.
So there was cash made.
Okay.
Employees include some of the founding members as well.
Okay.
So they got cashed out on that. And the company found a good home with Kuyang Babe, that's the founder of Q10.
Okay.
And it continues to thrive in the cross-border space.
Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about Kind Life.
Yes.
I know you're very excited about it, and I do think it's a unique proposition. And for someone who's already built one unicorn in the e-commerce space, I'm sure this will be, a smooth journey for you. But what are you envisioning? What's the plan? Is the business model the same? A lot has changed in the last decade. Are you finding it a different set of challenges and setting it up this time? Are you applying some of the learnings from the last time?
Oh my God, how stupid would I have to be not to apply those
exactly.
learnings? But
what are the top three? What are the top three?
I'd say one thing, and I've not said this on camera ever before.
Okay.
I'm one of the best e-commerce operators in the country.
Woohoo! I love that you're owning it. I love it. Yes.
It's a fact. I haven't said this before. Because I feel, oh God, you're going to underplay it, No. People don't know what happens.
This is what we do on Ladies Who Lead.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am one of the best e-commerce operators in the country. And I will make this work, regardless of the world being against or for it. So that in my head is very clear.
Okay.
Now, and this is primarily for Ladies Who Lead,
yes.
Because I think that there is so much self-doubt that creeps in our lives, and it doesn't let us live to our full potential.
Yeah.
So let's put that aside, first and foremost.
Totally.
That's the most important thing. Kind Life is, ShopClues was my baby as well, first baby. And Kind Life was my second baby. I love them both equally. And the thought behind Kind Life was very, very thought through. It's a category that I am passionate about. I eat well, I consume well,
right?
And I want everybody to eat well and consume well. Be better in the way we lead our lives.
Sure.
And that is our goal at Kind Life.
Okay. Which is super important today.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important, right? We're building out an entire ecosystem for well-being.
Okay.
That includes nutrition, that includes wellness, that includes clean beauty. Everything that you should consume, we have built out the technology with an ingredient-first approach to be able to identify the right products for you. That is first and foremost. Second is, we've taken what is the biggest conversation of today, AI.
Yes. Okay. And you're using
To
this
be able for Aabha to be able to figure out what are the right products for her.
Got it.
So I am super excited about that.
Fantastic.
You know, when we started ShopClues, it was, and I said this in the beginning, it was about bringing supply and demand together. Jadoo ho jayega, jadoo ho gaya. You know, e-commerce 2.0 was when a lot of the verticals came about, which was Nykaa, Lenskart, First Cry, you know, and I remember thinking at that point, why do these people need to exist? You know, everything that's available is available with us. But they were catering to a very specific need.
Right.
You know, Nykaa was built on catering to original, authentic, genuine products, and then increasing the supply that was available. And they thrived. They've done fabulously well, as we all know. I think now is the time for e-commerce 3.0. It will continue to be a hyper vertical, super specialized vertical play, but built on discovery using AI, built on AI also curating the selection for a very specific person. So kindlife in another 6 months will look very different for Aabha than it will look for Radhika.
Exciting. I didn't actually know of all these developments, and I'm super thrilled to hear about how you're going to be leading e-commerce 3.0.
Yes,
you know?
I'm very excited about it. I do think that our country is at the, I'm a huge India fan. You know, I'm,
Same.
Pick up that
I think we're in the right place at the right time.
Cannot be more grateful for that. Good time for me to be born, mom, dad, so thank you. But I have to say that it's super exciting to be here. First time we are having a conversation about per capita GDP growth, right?
Yes.
7% GDP growth.
Yeah.
We are going to be 8 trillion by the end of this decade.
It's going to be our decade.
It is our decade.
Yeah.
It is.
We're already getting there.
We're getting there. So it's also time to build out from within India for the world.
I couldn't agree with you more.
That's what kindlife is going to be.
Radhika, it has been fabulous having you on the show today. And for our viewers, it's completely unedited, unfiltered, and like Radhika said, the first time she's spoken out about many, many things. And these are the moments, you know, the thoughts, the actions that shape our lives and get us to where we are. And the next inflection point is going to be even more magical. Radhika Ghai, thank you for joining us on Ladies.
Thank you so much, Aabha, and a big cheers to everybody at Ladies Who Read. Thank you.